So now we've looked at so many things and so many important things, but now today I want us to look at immunity. Hope my viewer you're doing very well. Now briefly we are going to start with this word immunity and briefly get to know what does the word immunity mean. In simple terms, we want to know how does the body defend itself against infection. So the word immunity, as you can see over here, this is our topic today. Immunity simply means the body's ability to resist infections. In the world we live in, there are so many bacteria, viruses everywhere. But now, you realize that these cause what we call infections within our bodies. And the body has to respond to protect us from being infected or to protect us from all those kinds of situations that can take or can cause dangerous situations in our bodies. So immunity, simply body's ability to resist infection. An infection can be caused by a pathogen or it can be caused by an antigen. How does the body achieve immunity? Immunity is only achieved or can only be achieved through what we call production of antibodies. That is by the immune cells of the immune system of the body. Now we note our words there. One, that is an antigen. What is an antigen? An antigen can be a virus, it can be a bacteria, it can be a foreign particle or a foreign body that the body's immune system can identify as non-self or as something that is not related to all the cells inside the body. Then we note our another term known as antibody. An antibody is a product or a molecule that is being produced due to the response of antigen. So when the body gets pathogens or antigens or foreign particles, it responds by producing antibodies. And these antibodies are going to react. They are going to react and make sure they cause destruction of the pathogen, destruction of the so-called virus, bacteria, and so whatever. Then, our term immunity is divided into two types. And the first type we want to look at is the innate immunity. Innate immunity, just simply like the word innate, simply means this is the type of immunity we are born with. So when you are born, there is that type of immunity that you are born with, that you're able to resist all the infections your mother was able to resist. Because if a child or a kid is born without this type of immunity, then this seems to be very prone and susceptible to so many infections and it may not survive. And that's why we need this type of immunity. And in bracket you can say that we can call it non-specific. Non-specific simply means that it can act on a variety of pathogens, on a variety of antigens, on a variety of bacteria, viruses, and so many. So simply like the same immunity can protect you against the bacteria, it can protect you against the viruses, like can protect you against cholera, diseases such as tuberculosis, whooping cough, all those infections you can think about. So it is non-specific, meaning it is very good, actually very good, because it acts on a variety of pathogens or antigens within the body. Then another type we see here is called acquired. The word acquired, it means you get something that you did not have in the beginning. So when you are born, there is that type of immunity you gain due to exposure or you gain due to being given antibodies and other antibodies, vaccines, and so on. So this is our acquired immunity. One, we said we have one you are born with, that is before birth. Then we have acquired right over there. You acquire it after being born, that is through exposure, immunization, vaccination, and so on. Then we acquire immunity. Oh, this is not acquiring, I can say. But there is a way the body achieves this type of immunity, or how it defends itself against infections. So how does it achieve this? One, we find that all these ones are divided into two groups of responses. That's how the body responds. So the body can respond through cellular response or humoral response. That is in both innate and acquired. We can see that here we have cellular response, humoral response, cellular response, and humoral response. But now we are first going to take this root of the innate immunity. Like we said, innate, we are born with it. But the body achieves this through cellular response and humoral response. When we talk about cellular response, simply we mean the cell itself gets involved in the fight against the infections or foreign particles or foreign bodies within our bodies. So here cellular means the cell itself. Then we talk about humoral. These are body responses towards foreign particles which do not involve what we call cells themselves acting against given pathogens or antigens or foreign bodies. So we call it humoral response. The cell is not involved. Here we have cell itself is being involved. And the examples we see here, this tell us we have neutrophils. Now the neutrophils, the basophils, eosinophils, monocytes, macrophages, we consider those to be under given types of like neutrophils, basophils, eosinophils, monocytes, and macrophages. These are types of white blood cells or these are most leukocytes. And now we look at each one of them. What does it do? You find that the neutrophils with these are small. They are small, yes, not large. So they are small phagocytic cells, and they carry out what we call cell eating of materials inside the body. So there is a foreign particle. Say there is a pathogen, there is a virus or bacteria that has entered into the body. These neutrophils, they can act against them by either engulfing or carrying out what we call phagocytosis. That is the neutrophils. Then the basophils, these are types of white blood cells, but for them they respond to what we call a reaction, that is allergic reactions producing histamine and then heparin, which will be acted upon by the so-called basophils. But remember that the basophils will be regulated by what we call the eosinophils. The eosinophils also will modulate the activity of the basophils. So when we are carrying out tests, that is say in the lab, and want to find out infections, there we can talk about neutrophilia, neutropenia, basophilia, basopenia, eosinophilia, eosinopenia, meaning in case there is a change, either decrease in the number of neutrophils or increase in the number of neutrophils. So either increase or decrease. Decrease may indicate toxicity, and then increase may indicate any infection or can indicate an infection. Then we have monocytes and macrophages. The monocytes are in their sites of production, but when they get into the blood system, they become known as the macrophages. Now, macrophages are large phagocytic cells. These carry out what we call cell eating also. They engulf materials, foreign particles, and carry out destruction of those particles. Then we have also natural killer cells. The natural killer cells, these ones just like the word natural killer cells, they carry out destruction of all bacteria, viruses, protozoa, all kinds of foreign particles that enter into our body. So for them, they are natural. They do kill. They can kill. They can also act about what we call the cancer cells, the cancerous cells. They can also kill them naturally, just simply like the word in natural. So here we have cells getting involved. Then, when we talk about humoral response inside the body, these are things we can consider like they allow anatomy and normal physiology of the body, which we are born with. For instance, we have lysosome. The lysosomes are many within the body, and these we all know that they contain hydrolytic enzymes. Now, since they contain hydrolytic enzymes, they are able to destroy bacteria, viruses, and other foreign particles. For instance, we can have lysosomes in the eye, which carry out destruction of the viruses or bacteria. So that is a defensive mechanism. Then we can talk about stomach acid, say hydrochloric acid produced within the stomach. Its purpose is to destroy bacteria that enter together with the food that we do eat. We have complement. Complement is simply a group of amino acids, around 20, and these help us to fight against infections. And these are some of the amino acids that we are born with, and they help the body to defend against infections. Interferons, these help to destroy what we call viral infections. They are very good at destroying viruses. So interferons, we are born with interferons. Every individual possesses this group of interferons, and their purpose is to carry out viral infection or viral protection. Then we have physical barriers within the body. For example, the skin. The skin protects bacteria, protects protozoa, protects you from so many materials or foreign particles from entering inside your body. This is your skin. So whatever is outside external is prevented from entering into the body by our skin. We have the cilia, a mucous membrane that is in the trachea. So when you cough, it means you release some of the foreign particles that enter there. And you know that the cilia that we are born with, that is inside our nose, helps to trap foreign particles. But now, mucous membranes are found in so many areas inside our body, and these help to trap and then expel out these materials or foreign particles that may be toxic, that may cause injury to our body system. Then this is innate, we are born with it. Then acquired. We said also acquired, we have cellular response involving the cell itself, and then humoral response which does not involve the cell. When we look at cellular response and acquired, how do we acquire? That is through T cells or the so-called lymphocytes. That is, we achieve this. Remember when we talk about, before we talk about this, let's first talk about this. That acquired immunity is specific, meaning it can only act on a specific infection or virus or bacteria. For instance, if you're given a vaccine of coronavirus, it can only protect you against the coronavirus, and that cannot protect you against tuberculosis, measles, polio, and so other diseases. So this is divided into two types, where we have active immunity or active acquired immunity, and this is achieved through exposure to a particular microorganism, or say during vaccination or immunization. So that's how we achieve this, meaning you have to first be exposed to a microorganism, or else you simply have to be vaccinated or immunized. When you are vaccinated, it means you are injected with a dead living microorganism, and that will stimulate your immune cells in the body's immune system to respond to the virus, either carrying out destruction, either responding through certain things. And now, when you talk about this, when the body is being exposed to a microorganism or a pathogen or a body, what happens is that we have what we call primary response and secondary response. Now, primary response will occur during the first exposure. When you're exposed to a given infection for the first time, the body carries out what we call primary response. In most cases, this is a bit weak, but then when the body is exposed the first time, it will carry out what we call production of antibodies. Now, when antibodies are produced, they will fight against that given foreign body. But then, that is during primary response. When you are exposed to the same antigen, that means that body is able to detect that this pathogen, I know it, I know its structure, this is my enemy, and therefore I can act upon that enemy by causing what we call destruction. And always second response is very stronger than primary response because information is already available to the body. Yes, so that is active acquired immunity. Then when we come to passive acquired immunity, we can achieve this simply like the word passive. With active, the body itself is stimulated to produce antibodies. Now, when you talk about passive, it means you do not need to synthesize or to manufacture the antibodies, but you get already antibodies that are made for you by someone else or by an individual. That's why we say passive, already made antibodies are given to an individual. For example, we can have transplacenta, that is antibodies crossing from the mother to the fetus. And then we have breast milk, transplacenta, that is before birth, that is antibodies crossing from the mother to the fetus or to the embryo. And then breast milk, this is after birth, that breast milk babies take from their mothers. It contains antibodies which can protect them against infection. Then also you can achieve passive immunity through what we call blood products. Certain blood products contain what we call immune globulins, and these help to defend the body against infection. So that's active and then passive. Then we said it is acquired through cellular response involving the cell themselves, or humoral response without the cells getting involved. So when you talk about cell humoral response here in acquired, simply mean what causes production of antibodies over there. Then the cellular response is achieved through T cells and lymphocytes. It means these, like when you talk about T killer cells, we talk about T helper cells, we talk about T suppressor cells that cause destruction of given virus or bacteria inside our body and help the body to fight against these infections or pathogens. That is cellular. Then when we come to humoral response, when the body is exposed to a microorganism or a pathogen or a foreign particle, what happens? Responses from the lymphocytes or T cells will produce cytokines or interleukins. These will cause what we call stimulation of the beta cells or the B cells. Now what happens that the B cells will respond by producing plasma cells, and plasma cells are the cells that will act exactly on that given virus, bacteria, or foreign particle at the moment and cause what we call destruction. However, some will be converted to what we call memory cells, and the memory cells will simply store genetic information about these foreign particles, such that in case there is what we call reinfection or re-exposure, the body can easily attack and cause destruction of the foreign particle there and then. So B cells will be stimulated by cytokines or chemicals produced by T cells to produce plasma cells, which plasma cells will produce antibodies, and then the antibodies will help us to defend the body against the infections. In conclusion, when we look at our immune system, majorly depends on how you feed. How do you feed? Sometimes it is genetical, that there are those people who are born with strong immunity and those with weak immunity. But then your feeding is very important, that sometimes you need to feed very well such that you can possess a very good immune system. And this can be through advising individuals to have a well-balanced diet, feeding on foods that are rich in what we call immune boosters, like fruits that contain a lot of vitamin C and so on. So encouraging people about their diet can help to enable them have a strong immunity which can fight against the infection. So that's our topic today. Hope we meet next time. Thank you.